Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. Welcome to my YouTube guitar building channel. Today is new tool day. I am going to demonstrate and explain a tool which I made over the weekend. This is a fret beveling file. Not to be confused with the fret leveling beam. This is a fret leveling beam. This is what you use to level your frets after they've been installed. What this tool does is it puts a nice bevel along the edge of the frets on both sides of your fretboard. And this is a tool that you can actually buy these for fairly reasonable prices on the internet. And they work fairly well, but I have always made this type of tool because it's so incredibly simple to make yourself. And the last tool that I had, the last fret beveling file that I had, it worked okay, but there was a couple of things on it that I wanted to change. And I actually considered purchasing one on the internet. But when I started to look at the ones that were available, I started to see the same problem with those files that I was having with my homemade file. So I decided to rectify the situation and make the improvement on a new one. So let me bring you in closer and I'll show you basically what this file consists of, and then I'll show you how it works. Okay, so the tool itself consists of a block of wood which has a file specifically designed for fretwork that has been inserted into the block at a 35-degree angle. Then I attached a piece of slippery plastic to the surface of the wood. It's held in place with 6 wood screws that are countersunk into the plastic. This plastic is actually what sits on top of the frets while presenting the file to the edge of the frets as I grind them into that 35-degree angle. And I placed a little black triangle on top of it so that I know which direction I need to push the file in order for it to do its work. The way I made this is I just found a scrap piece of rosewood that I had in my stash of wood. And this piece it's the same length as the file, which is about 6 1/4 inches in length. The width is about 2 3/4 inches wide. And then, as I said, the file was inserted into a slot that I cut on my table saw at a 35-degree angle. Now, the depth of this slot is about 1/2 inch. And this is where I decided to make some improvements over the old file that I had and the ones that I saw on the internet. And one of the issues I had was, in my old file, too much of the file was extending below the surface that sits on the frets. So what would happen is this file came down too far. That posed a problem if I had to bevel frets in a neck that was already installed into a guitar body. When I would run the file forward, the file could hit the body. So I wanted to make this tool so that there was less of the file being presented to the sides or to the edges of the frets. So I had to do some test cuts on my table saw to determine the depth. And of course, this file is quite a bit wider than the kerf on my table saw. So not only did I have to figure out the depth, but I also had to run the piece through a couple of times. Each time I would adjust the fence slightly just to make that slot a little bit wider. And to keep things simple, I didn't really want to make this tool so that the file would have to be held in place with set screws on the side. I wanted the fit to be tight enough to where I could just tap it in with a hammer and it would be press fit into place. And that's what I achieved with this. And then by adding this plastic to this surface here, I now have an area of the file. It's about 1/4 inch deep that is presented to the sides of my frets, which allows me to clear the body without any trouble. Now, normally when I'm beveling frets, I do that work before I install the neck, but there are occasions when I have to do the work after the neck has been installed, and I didn't want to have that risk of running into the body. Now, the plastic I'm using here is, you can use like an HDPE or the UHMW type plastics. Those are high density, low friction plastics, and I'll put them in a link to these type of plastics down in the description below. I'll also put a link to the type of file that I used as well, so that you can, if you want to make this tool on your own, you can shop for those parts online. But you could also use, if you can find a plastic cutting board that's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and I've seen them, at my local grocery store and, places like that, Walmart or, wherever you do your shopping. And if you can find one of those will work really well. The purpose of it is just to reduce the potential contact with the tops of your frets as you're doing the work. To use this tool, it's pretty simple and should be fairly self-explanatory. I just take the plastic side, place that down on top of the frets, and I want to make sure that my arrow is pointing in the direction that I'm going to run the file against the edges of the frets. So I would start all the way at the end and bring it forward. And then with each pass, I lift the tool off because it only cuts in one direction, the direction that the arrow is pointing. If I go back and forth, there's a good chance that I'm going to prematurely wear the teeth on my file. So I just will run it in one direction. And then to do the other side, I just flip the tool around and go the other direction. And the goal here is to form that bevel and then grind the bevel back until it's flush with the edge of the fretboard. If you look closely, you'll notice that there are no slots that appear on the sides of my fretboard, and that's because when I cut the slots, I stop them short of the edge. Those are called blind fret slots, and the advantage of blind fret slots is they eliminate the problem of fret sprout whenever the wood tends to shrink as the humidity levels change. So if your fret slots go all the way out the edge of the fretboard, you're probably not only going to feel the edge of the fret extending beyond the fretboard after it's been installed, but you're also going to feel the tang as well. And you're going to have to grind that tang back flush with the edge of the fretboard. And one way that you can do it is to simply tilt the tool at an angle so that the file is perpendicular with the ends of the fret. That way you can grind down that tang flush with the edge of the fretboard. However, that doesn't really work in my situation with this particular tool, because when I tip it up like this, the file is now extending so far down the side of the neck that if I run it forward, it's going to hit the body. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make another tool, which is going to be very similar to this one, except instead of inserting the file at a 35-degree angle, it's going to be inserted at a 90-degree angle so that it's straight up and down. And with just, this small amount of the file presenting itself to the sides of the fretboard. That way I can grind a tang back to the edge of the, flush with the fretboard, and have better control and be able to do it over the surface of the body. It's not really a priority for me because, like I said, I'm using blind fret slots, so I don't really have to worry about grinding a tang back. But, if that's something that's something that you're going to have to deal with, then you'll want to consider a tool like this for beveling the file or beveling the frets, and then a tool with the file straight up and down so that you can grind down the tang. Another feature that I incorporated into this design was I ground the edges of the file on my bench grinder, and I just rounded them off and smoothed them out. I even ground a safe edge along the corner here where the teeth meets the side of the file. And that's just to reduce the potential for damaging the fretboard as I'm doing the work. So, and you know, if there was the possibility that I might slip and the file hit the body, having those edges rounded is going to reduce the severity of whatever damage might occur. After the ends of the frets have been beveled to that 35-degree angle, as you run your finger along the edge, there's still a good chance you're going to feel some sharp corners and some sharp edges here. There's no way that this tool can get it perfectly flush and smooth along the edge, because whenever you're grinding metal, you're forming a burr, and you have to remove that burr by using even finer toothed files. And what I use is a Stuart McDonald 1175 fret dressing file. This has teeth on both sides of the file, but then the edges are ground smooth. One is slightly rounded and the other is flat. So I can just place that file right up against the beveled edge of the fret and then just file away that burr. And that's the final touch that you need to do to get that beveled edge feeling really smooth as you run your finger along the sides of the fretboard. I hope you found this video to be useful, and maybe it will inspire you to make your own fret beveling file. At any rate, if so, give me a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you don't subscribe but like videos on building guitars. And if you have any comments or questions, post them down below, and either I or somebody in the community will endeavor to answer them. And as always, if you'd like to show my channel support, head over to eguitarplans.com and purchase a plan for a guitar or one of the different tools that I use to build guitars. And even if you don't build the plan, just know that your purchase is helping to support this channel, because these videos take time to make and post up on YouTube, and time is money. So, you know, and then of course, if you would like to show the channel support but don't want to purchase a plan, you could always purchase a Highline Guitars t-shirt and show your love for the work I do. And I have a merch shelf down below that displays some of those t-shirts. And if you can't see that merch shelf, there will be a link in the description as well. So until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.